Precinct 5, so I'm sure that's
In
what
Town
that
Hall,
is.
yep.
Again, Christopher O'Neill at 270, John Souza at 138, and Select Board Lot 3. Assessor, Curtis Nunes, 290, Albert Lay, 109. School Committee, we had Kyle Ross at 218, Mary Beckworth at 216. And for the trustee of Free Public Libraries, it's a 3-year term. You vote for 2. Mary Ann Cole, who's sitting with us right now, has the lead at 261, with Linda Garibaldi at 241, and Mary Wolfson at 148. Mary Ann Cole, thank you for joining us here on election night.
Hello, how are you?
Now, is this the first time you've run for elected office?
Yes, it is.
All right, so what is it like to be somebody that's never done it before, and you're throwing your hat in the ring for the first time?
A lot of, did I do the right thing?
Right.
Am I going to win? A lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
But like I said, what I figured is do it. If I don't win, I don't win. There's always another time.
Right.
So it's an experience.
Absolutely, and I think, as we said to others, that we commend you for that. Like, that's fantastic, because there's a lot of people out there who aren't throwing their hat into the ring to try to serve the town. And so, regardless of the outcome, and you're in the lead here in Precinct 5.
That was a shock.
You put your hat in the ring,
Yeah.
and whatever happens, happens, and you deserve to be commended for that.
Thank you.
What are the issues that resulted in you wanting to run in the first place?
I actually have a friend that's on the board, and she said, have you ever thought about doing this? And I said, not really. I was also friends with Suzanne McDonald, who's passed away, and she was instrumental with the North Branch.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of between my friend and Suzanne, in honor of her memory, that I said, well, why not? Why not try it?
So did they say something like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it?
No, not really. My friend just said, it'll be something to do.
Yeah.
I'm not working, so it's just one night a week,
Yeah.
one night a month, rather. And I said, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's an experience, and you have the opportunity to try to shape something that's important to you or important to the town.
I got into the nominating process a week before the papers were due.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't even thought about doing this, so that was nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
just to try to
Get the signatures.
get the signatures.
Yeah.
And I had some help.
Yeah.
And names to contact, and I'm very grateful to all the people who were that part of the process.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a process, and it's experience,
Yeah.
and we're here tonight to see how the voters turned out, and that's exciting too. Anxious, of course,
Yeah.
but exciting.
Very anxious.
Yeah, and that's very normal to
Yeah.
go through that. You've put yourself out there to run for something, and it's kind of out of your control at this point, so certainly anyone would feel that way.
Yeah, like
I
I said-
remember those feelings too.
I was very surprised to see 265 people in
Yeah.
Precinct 5. That's my precinct.
Yeah.
So there's 265 people that, whether I'm the first one on the ballot or that they remember me, they know me. My kids were very active in schools, in schools and sports and everything throughout the town, so maybe it's people with name recognition,
Yeah.
which I'll take it.
I remember that feeling, right? It's kind of humbling when you see 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. None of us know that many people to come out and vote for you. So that's a great point. And it is kind of a humbling thing when you look at the numbers and you see what your totals are at the end of the night, and to think that, 1,000 people, whatever that number, and 2,000 people, whatever it ends up being, actually wanted you to be in that spot. So that's good motivation to keep doing it regardless of what the outcome is. And that's a really awesome feeling.
Yeah, it is. Like I
Now,
said.
in terms of libraries, right, the role of libraries has changed over the years, and now we have the internet, we have so many different ways to research things and all that. How do you see the role of the library? And one of the other issues that's come up as well, are there certain books that maybe are inappropriate or not appropriate? Do you have any thoughts on those types of things?
As far as like banning books kind of thing, I don't think the book should be banned. If you don't want to read it, don't. Just like the internet, you don't want to read a story, scroll on by. You don't want to watch a TV program, switch the channel. You don't want to hear what their opinions are, walk away. So as far as that is concerned, I know that I probably hear comments about that, but that's my opinion. It's like everything was written for a purpose. good, bad, or indifferent. And if you don't believe it, you read it, maybe it'll change your perspective on something, maybe it won't.
And as far as the role of the library compared to like 20 years ago?
I think when we were talking about this in some of the discussions, it has changed. There's a lot, I think, maybe a lot less books, but you can get them on audio. You can research. I think the library has become more of a trying to appeal to everybody, and the programs just to bring people in. Like I said, I hadn't been to the library since way before COVID started, and I've done a lot. I'm a physical book person. I used to be in the library like once a week years ago, and I get 5 or 6 books, slip them in the, as I finished them, slip them in the book return. Then work got in the way, so there was a lot less time to do that kind of thing. But like I said, I think that the libraries, with all the programs that they have, with different groups, I think there's probably improvement. Maybe something that was discussed 5 years ago isn't applicable now. Maybe that should be looked at. Like I said, there's a whole, even some of the services, I never realized that the library offered passport services. I never realized, that you could rent out rooms, private study, which is a good thing. Sometimes you just need to get out of the house and go someplace quiet. Rather than sitting in your car somewhere, there's a place that you can go that's safe.
Right.
Even sitting in your car, you're not really safe all the time. So,
Hey, we appreciate you stopping by here on our election night. It looks like it's going to be a very close race as we proceed through the evening. So again, good luck to you. Congratulations for putting your hat in the ring, because we always thank any of our town residents who make that decision.
I just want to thank everybody, and everybody associated with this has been really, really great and encouraging. So,
Awesome.
thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Mary Ann Cole, running for trustee of the Free Public Library, is a 3-year term. And after one precinct in, she actually has the lead at 261 with Linda Garibaldi at 241 and Maya Wilson at 148. It's interesting. Every time we talk to a candidate that's run for the first time, they really appreciate the experience, especially that first time, what it's like. Maybe a little bit different than they thought, perhaps.
It's such a humbling experience. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it. I mean, I remember, we kind of made a joke about it, knocking on people's doors and meeting people that you hadn't met, and then that experience when you start to see the vote totals come back in, and you realize hundreds of people have come out to support you, whether they saw you at the candidates' night or they saw folks that standing on the sides. It's a humbling experience, and then to actually win and to be in there and have to actually take positions. And that's why we try to encourage Kyle and anyone really who comes before us to ask them that's the hardest part of being a leader, because undoubtedly there will be an issue, as David talked about, where there will be competing views. And you, as the leader, will have to take a position. And 50% of the people are going to support you, and 50% of the people are not. That's hard. That's hard when you have to get up and go to the grocery store or the pharmacy and see these folks. But that's what's required in order for us to have a strong town government. So that's why I think it's important every time somebody steps up here and throws their hat in the ring for the first time and shares their emotions and how they're feeling, that we validate that, because those are all very, very real feelings, and our government depends on that. And so it's really awesome.
I can remember campaigns of the past, they would always talk about, well, it's a grassroots campaign and we got to go door to door. And you think in this age that maybe that would be a little bit different. But I got to tell you, when a candidate takes the effort to come to my house and stop and talk to me for a few minutes, and I know you did, we joke about it. I remember you coming to my house. I'm like, oh, okay, the guy Watson came to my house. Well, maybe your opponent didn't bother to come to my house. I don't know. I don't remember that far back. But the point is that somebody comes to my house, you say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm running for this office. I believe in the town. I believe in this and that, Even if I don't agree with you all the time, the fact that you believe in the town enough to come to my house to talk to me, left an impression, and I think it does leave an impression.
It would be the single most important advice I would give to anyone, because today we'll see 3,000 or 4,000 people that vote. There's no Fox News or CNN debate. We're not in everybody's living room every night, right? Most voters don't know all of the candidates. They'll see their name. They might watch the candidates' night. They might see something in a magazine, a newspaper, whatever. But what they will remember is if you knocked on their door and looked them right in the face.
And I do remember.
As long as you give them your name and they get to the ballot box, and it's your name, the one who was there, against somebody who wasn't, I like your chances.
Well, when you got elected the first time, okay, you got elected and all that. So one night I put on the select board meeting, and I remember thinking to myself, hey, that's the guy that came to my house.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So that is kind of how it
and
works.
in those days, we spent hundreds of dollars on advertisements in the newspapers. We held signs all over the place. We did the visibility things, but
The number one thing was,
the number one thing
Right.
is get to somebody's doorstep, knock on the door. It takes hours, and that's why most candidates don't do it. But if I was running today, or I advised somebody to run today, that's what I would tell them to do.
you talk about voter turnout and how, you have, say, 3,000 people voting, and that's really what's going to decide it. And that is kind of what the numbers have been like over the past few years, except, 2 years ago when the Indian logo was on the ballot? We got a little bump that time, right? How many votes
We
did we have 2
saw
years ago?
just over 5,300
Right.
that year, which is, in the mid-20s. To be honest with you, going back to the time that I served in 2009 onward, we had that around 2009 and 10, and then we had a pretty precipitous drop. I don't think we got near 5,000 again, probably until 2022, that I can remember. I mean, I obviously haven't committed every election result for the last decade in my head, but I don't remember a year. Normally, we're 3,000-4,000. Somewhere in that area would be pretty consistent. So to see us at 5 was big.
Yeah, it's not an issue, in Dartmouth, right? It's an issue, I think, countrywide, where there seems to be less and less participation. Voter turnout seems to be going lower and lower. At the national level, maybe a little bit different given the climate right now, but at the local level, the participation, the voter turnout is low all the time. It does seem that people can be disillusioned and they can get cynical. What do you think can be done about that, if anything?
So, the easiest thing to say is we have to engage people. So, I mean, I think, as David was mentioning when we talk about different issues, and it's hard. No one's going to spend their Monday night coming out to watch a joint meeting of the FinCom, school committee, and the select board. That's just not, we have to do that. That's how we conduct the business of the town. But the work in getting out to where people are is much deeper than that. We have to be holding events. We've got to get friends to help us with other friends, to get them in places where we can talk to. And that's why the work of being an elected leader is so difficult. And what I believe, if you show up, and I appreciate David's comments, but this wasn't an every other Monday night thing for me. And if it is, you can do it, you'll get away with it, you'll be able to run it, but you'll never educate the public because they're not watching us tonight. There's folks at home probably watching us, but it's not 5,000 people.
Right.
So we have to go where they are to educate them on what the issues are. And that takes night after night, hour after hour. It's a lot of work to be able to do that. And that's difficult. So there is no short answer. We've got to get places where people are. And, holding forums is great, but it usually brings out the people who are most vocal. It doesn't necessarily bring out all the people who are in their homes. And so we have to find ways to connect with voters where they are and make them understand the why behind some of the choices and decisions that we're making. And that is no easy task.
Well, I can recall that when you were on the board and even other times when you weren't on the board, I can remember that, I'd put on the meeting, you could tell there's hardly anybody here, you're going through your normal business. But then when there's a controversial issue, the place is packed. And now you got to make a decision, and now it's a whole different thing. So when there's a big enough issue, then you see people kind of come out a little bit more. When something's really hitting home, then all of a sudden you get their attention, right? That's how it kind of works.
And that's when your leaders get tested the most, because we have positions that we take, and, taking a position right now with 2 folks in the audience is pretty easy. When there's 200 people sitting there, does that shake the direction of where we're going, or are we confident enough in the position and the course that we're laying to try to educate those folks in that moment? It's how you get unpopular.
Yeah, right.
Right, because you got to use those moments to help educate people on the why behind things. And that's why we celebrate people who want to come out and put their name in the hat and embrace the work, because we need people to do that. Our government requires that of us. And so, and there are more difficult decisions on the horizon. I don't care which way you end up on it. The fact that we used one-time money to fund a budget this year pretty much guarantees we'll be in exactly the same situation in 12 months.
And somebody's got to sit down and go through it next year, the select
They're gonna go
board,
through
our
it
elected officials, and go through it again and try to figure out what the right answer is.
We're either going to have to reallocate resources, eliminate positions, or create more revenue. One of those 3 options.
You're watching Election Night coverage 2024 live from Town Hall alongside our political analyst and in quotation marks, expert, Mr. Mike Watson, former member of the Select Board. I'm Paul Santos. Great to have you looking in tonight. We only have one precinct in so far. It happens the same way every time. We always get Precinct 5, which is the area right here at Town Hall, and there are 3 contested races. Select Board Lot 3, Christopher O'Neill at 270, John Souza at 138. We have School Committee, Kyle Ross at 218, Mary Beckwith at 216, and Trustee of Free Public Libraries, 2 out of 3 will win. Mary Ann Cole at 261, Linda Garibaldi at 241, and Maya Wolfson at 148. Now you have that one precinct that comes in, and it happens every time. All of a sudden, the north end of the town and the south end of the town comes pouring in. I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe they'll hand us one more, and then after that it'll be the finals, and that'll be the end.
Yeah, I would expect that we're going to get probably 2 more sheets. A sheet that comes from North Dartmouth that probably grabs precincts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then one that comes from the south end that handles 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we're going to probably see this come in batches pretty quickly over the next 20 minutes or so. And so we'll be looking for indicators on turnout at that next one and see where we are. So we'll do some quick math in our head when you get the results, Paul, and be able to talk about that. But I think that's an early indication from one precinct that turnout is up. And from my experience, I think that's a pretty safe bet. I'm going out on a limb here,
Yeah, right.
making a prediction, but my guess is we will exceed 2023 numbers, because if Precinct 5 is up, we're going to see that probably run across the board.
And actually, as we said, Precinct 5 is right here in the Town Hall area of the town of Dartmouth. We have 9 precincts in the town. That's 1, and we have the other, obviously, 8 coming in. So actually, when you look at this, right, unless you kind of figure out, well, is that my home neighborhood or not? But really, 1 out of 9, right? You got Ross at 218, Beckwith at 216. You can't tell anything from that.
Nope.
And even the Free Public Library trustee position, 261, Mary Ann Cole, 241, Linda Garibaldi, 148, Wolfson. Okay, you might say, well, Garibaldi and Cole are feeling pretty good. But again, that's only 1 out of 9, right?
Too early.
Too early.
Yeah, I mean, it's right smack in the middle of the town, so we don't necessarily know if there's there's likely to be a bigger turnout in precinct 7, 8, and 9 than what we're going to see in precincts 1, 2, and 3. So we'll know more of that, when we see the next sheet come in. But I definitely feel pretty confident, even though it's only one to say that we're going to see an increase over the 2976 that we saw last year. An early estimate would be we're about a quarter of the way more there. We're probably looking somewhere in the 3,600. Somewhere in there would be pretty
So based
impressive.
on the fact that Precinct 5 is up by that amount, you're projecting that that's the way it's going to be across
I
the whole
think so.
town?
That's
Right.
my gut. We're gonna test this theory out
Test
in real
it out.
time in the next 20
It's
minutes.
like a block count,
Yeah,
Remember the old
my
block
guess
counts? Yeah.
is, and again, I got a little more. When I voted in Precinct 7 today, I was 488, and that was at about 530, and they only had 401 last year, so they're also trending by the same 25%. So that's my guess. My guess is we're going to be north of 3,500, but we'll see in a few minutes.
It's interesting. They have the vote by mail now, of course, in the town of Dartmouth. And I like it. I do it, And so I had my ballot all ready to go, and I was going to put it in the mail, and then I didn't get a chance to. I said, well, I'll go by town hall and I'll put it in the drop box,
Yeah.
which is great, So as today was coming, this got in the way. They say life gets in the way. That's when, that's like an excuse that you make. So then as it's getting closer, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm going to be down at town hall with Mike Watson. On Tuesday night, I can bring the ballot with me and put it in the box
right to
on
the
the way
clerk's
in.
office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there you
I
go.
went to put it in the box, and the clerk was coming out to get another batch. I'm like, here, I'm here anyway. Take it.
Yeah.
So hey, as long as you vote, it doesn't
That's it.
matter how you do it.
it.
As long as you do it and participate in your democracy, that's the most important thing.
It gives you the license to be able to complain afterwards if you participate
right.
in the process.
It's kind of fortunate that it's like, well, I'm going to be down there anyway. So this could be a thing I do every year now. You might see me coming in with a ballot every year.
You're not going to vote anymore at the precinct. You're going to actually
No,
show
I'm going to
up.
walk it right down.
You're
So
going to walk
I
it
said
in.
to the clerk, I said, could I have just handed it to you at the window? They take them at the window right till 8 o'clock.
yeah.
So I could have just walked in and handed it over and said, see you. I'm going to go see Mike Watson. Here you go. So that's how
Let's
it's
hope
gonna-
that more of our viewers don't do that next year and overwhelm the clerk's
Yeah,
office
right,
in the
exactly.
final minutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, so election coverage here, 2024, live from Town Hall. Glad to be having you look in here. If you are a candidate and you want to talk with us, we have had a few candidates join us here at the interview table. So if you want to do that, come on down and say hello, and we're going to be on the air for a little while longer. We won't be on too much longer after the final results come in. So if you are a candidate and you want to swing over, now's the time to do it, and you can chat with Mike and myself as we proceed along through the evening. Well, let's see. What else did we not talk about here? There was some discussion about trying to get more funds to come in. That's a big thing, of course, for town government. Selling the police station was one idea. Maybe, there was some discussion about, obviously the tax override, which is always like, oh my God, not another tax override, please, not a tax override. How do you navigate all that stuff? And what do you think should happen next year? Or you can even give an opinion right now.
Yeah,
probably too early, right?
It's early. I think so. There aren't many options, right? So the funding formulas are pretty much set up. If there's new growth, right, that comes into the town, that's one avenue in which we can add to the tax base. But there isn't a ton of more room for new growth. We've pretty much seen a lot of that happen over in the last 20 years as Dartmouth has rapidly expanded. And when you have new growth, that creates other issues like roadways that are jammed up with cars at different intersections, right? So that's been a source of frustration for many voters along the way as well. And then that adds to the whole, how do we fund the roads? How do we keep the roads good? So there's a lot of conversations that come around new growth. While it adds to the tax base, it also comes with some additional considerations. The other options are to look to get more efficient with the money that you have, streamline operations, try to find ways to consolidate, and/or bring voters a request to fund an operational override, which would, in essence, raise the tax base. Other than that, there aren't many options. So you either have to look to add to the revenue base or subtract from the expense side in order to create a balanced budget.
You talked about traffic at particular intersections, right? So I hear people talking about that intersection at Fons Corner Road all the time, and that, you're really supposed to leave a space. If you get the green light and it turns yellow, you're not supposed to go in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah.
And then it turns red and you're sitting
stuck
there
there.
blocking.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to leave a space just in case you don't make it.
Yeah.
And people don't do that,
No.
right? So there's a lot of aggravation over there. But town government, do they have anything to do with that? Can you do anything about that
Well,
at the town government level?
So on any of the town roadways, the town would have some oversight and be able to do that. And certainly there are oftentimes police forces from Dartmouth that are out there.
Right, at holiday time, they have a
So
police officer there saying, don't go into the middle of the intersection.
100%, they're
Yeah.
present there. I mean, the state roadways obviously are going to be mandated more by the Commonwealth. That project has been under consideration. I can remember being on the Southeast Region Economic Planning and Development District when I was on the select board member and talking about the connector between Hathaway Road, to merge some of that traffic.
Well, there was a discussion about where Tucker Road comes
Yeah,
out, right?
yeah.
And have it go behind the library and
Sort of behind where the older library is now. Yeah, no.
wasn't there a KFC around there or something?
Well, I think it was behind the Burger King, wasn't it?
Oh, the Burger
In
King,
that
that's right,
area,
the
yeah.
Burger
So
King, yeah, right.
There was a lot of talk about that going back 10 years and try to connect to Hathaway Road there as a way to relieve the pressure that was turning
Right.
Onto State Road towards where the mall is. So, it's not just a local issue. It's also a regional planning issue for the Southeast Corridor. But there's lots of agencies that are involved in those conversations.
Well, I know you're talking about voter turnout, and there was a bump in the turnout 2 years ago. And one of the reasons why there was a bump in the turnout is because the Indian logo was put on the ballot. And that was a hot button issue. And I think the town spoke very loudly. I think it was like 80% that folks wanted to keep the Indian logo. But here's the thing, right? The state of Massachusetts has a piece of legislation that may prohibit any local town from using a logo like that. And really, anybody that runs for office, like the local school committee, will not be able to do anything about it, right, if it comes from the state level. But it almost feels like, wow, there's going to be a lot of upset people if the state of Massachusetts says, hey, you know what, we've decided to eliminate it statewide. No town across the Commonwealth can do it. I can hear it already. The people here in the town that voted for it and felt very strongly about it, they're going to be upset that it's coming from the state level. What about all that? I mean, there's nothing that the town could do about it, but it's going to be unfortunate to hear people at the local level say, well, wait a minute, we already voted on that. Well, but the state of Massachusetts is saying something else.
Yeah, and part of that is the education, right? So there's no question that in 2022, we talked about it before we went on, just over 5,300 people voted, right? So that was, twice as much almost, a little less than twice as much as what we had last year, largely driven by that kind of a question. You'd get the same type of reaction, by the way, if you spoke about an operational override. Those are the times that you see large voter turnout that would come out. But yeah, the short answer is that the Dartmouth community and its government structure has the ability to govern the town of Dartmouth. And the Commonwealth, when it takes actions at the state level, governs the entire state. So if there were to be a legislative move on Beacon Hill or wherever up in Boston, you're going to see that impact that's felt.
All right, let's see. We have further numbers coming in, and we have 9 of 9 reporting. So we have the final numbers. So let us start with the Select Board Lot 3. Christopher O'Neill, 2,094 votes. John Souza, 1,330. 61% for Chris O'Neill, 39% for John Souza. For School Committee, we have Mary Beckwith, 1,855 votes. Kyle Ross, 1,619. So Mary Beckwith is elected tonight with 53% of the vote compared to Kyle Ross's 47%. And trustee of the Free Public Libraries, a 3-year term or a 2-win, it is Linda Garibaldi coming in first with 2,087 votes. Mary Ann Cole getting elected tonight in second place with 1,968 votes. And Maya Wolfson coming in third at 1,282 votes. So it is Linda Garibaldi, 39% of the vote, and Mary Ann Cole with 37% of the vote getting elected to the public library this time around. So some very good races tonight.
Yeah, very competitive races, and quick numbers. We're just shy of 3,500. So 34-74 in the select board race, 34-24 in the select board race, school committee and select board race. So that's a good turnout. That's a little bit better than what we saw last year. So that's encouraging when we see more people, willing to step out and participate in electing their fellow citizens.
So your theory was tested out.
Right on.
And it came
Just
right
off by
on the money.
26.
Right on the money.
What did I say?
Right on the money.
3,500. It was close.
And we didn't mention assessor, and it's Curtis Noon's 2385 and Albert Lay 771. But let's see. I do believe they both get elected. Let's see. No,
Just one.
Just one. Okay, so it's Curtis Noon's winning with 2,385. Albert Lay at 771. 75% of the vote for Curtis Noon. So congratulations to Mr. Noons for being elected tonight. So a lot of participation. Good to see the numbers up. We didn't have that hot button issue like the logo, but apparently there were enough issues out there and some good campaigning. Congratulations, by the way, to Mary Ann Cole, still sitting over here, who was a little nervous, ran for the first time. So she started out in first place, ended up in second, but the top two get in. So
They do. They both get in.
It doesn't matter. It
That's
doesn't
it.
matter, right? So congratulations to her. And, it's interesting, like I said, there wasn't that big hot button issue on the docket tonight, but there was still enough participation. Maybe the candidates are out there trying to inform people, like you said, to try to get people motivated, and it's good to see the turnout up.
Yeah, the turnout's definitely, up a few votes, and, it's got to be somewhere in the low teens in terms of what that would look like. We can see that here in just a second overall. But I think that that's a really good thing for us, and hopefully we'll continue to build on that as we see more and more competitive races. It'll be fascinating to learn tonight some of the proposals that may be coming forth from the Charter Review Commission. That will be exciting to see as that goes through the process and how that may impact the future of town government.
Well, let me zip through this real quick because we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but we actually have a breakdown of which precincts voted the most. So Precinct 1, 10%. Precinct 2, 13%. Precinct 3, 10%. Precinct 4, 13%. Precinct 5, where we sit right now, at 15%. Precinct 6, 12%. Precinct 7, 18%. Leading the way, Precinct 8, 21%. Precinct 9, 20%. And that total for the town tonight is 15.33%. So let's see, Precinct 8 and 9, is that toward the southern part of
Yes,
town?
it
Is that
is.
correct?
Yes, it is.
So, yes, I think as you go to the south, the numbers are a little bit higher than the middle and the northern part of town. But I think that's customary, is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, not, every one of the precincts was up. When we look at all precincts 1 through 9 this year, compare their total votes to what we saw last year, we're up pretty much by a quarter everywhere. So what we thought in Precinct 5 materialized everywhere, and that's a really good sign. It shows that voters aren't just turning out in isolated portions of the town, but turning out across the town. And so, Dave was here again. We talked about education. I think if anything else, we can just encourage voters to encourage their friends to vote, right, and try to shoot a little bit further next year to grow those numbers a little bit more.
Well, a lot of times we get Precinct 5 first. As a matter of fact, we always get Precinct
always
5 first because that's where we're sitting right now. But then usually we get a second sheet of paper that maybe gets you to, 6 out of 9 or something, get you halfway, and then a third piece of paper, this whole thing. Tonight we just went Precinct 5, and then everything else.
Well, we'll take that up with our people after the show and see if we can't fix that for next year.
Well, we'd rather have it drawn out. No, I think this works pretty good, actually.
It doesn't work
This
bad.
works pretty good. This works pretty good. Well, we're going to go over the numbers one more time, but any final thoughts? We do have some issues that are going to be on the docket. Again, we talk about the budget, we talk about the schools, we talk about all these different things that are going to come up. And, hey, the elected officials have to deal with it. You had to deal with it. We deal with it, and we do the best we can.
Yeah, no, I think, congratulations to everybody who won a seat tonight. Now the real work begins.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it's easy to be the candidate. Well, I don't know if it's easy to be the candidate, but you're basically speaking about positivity, why you should vote for me, what I think I can do, different things I can work on during the course of representing you in the town. But then, like you said, when it comes to that tough vote, what are you going to do? And you have to make the best informed decision what you think is best. And I think most of the people, just about all of them that have served, are really doing what they think is best.
When you're on the outside, you're able to take positions based on what you know. When you get on the inside, you learn a lot more, and you not only realize the flaws of the operation in pieces, but also the flaws of your own views that you may have brought in there. And so you're forced to kind of look at things from a whole different perspective.
Well, before we go, I know you've been over there in New Bedford Voc now for a few years, and I know you're enjoying your work over there at New Bedford Voc Tech. You got a lot of great students over there. It's a great school.
I do. No, I love the role that I'm in. I've been involved in education now for 25 years. I think it's a profession I'm proud of. It's a profession of the work that we do every day for kids, and it's about tomorrow. And so, I'm proud of the work that we're doing, and I'm proud of the work really that all schools are doing.
And what's the title that you hold over there?
I'm the superintendent.
Superintendent. That's what I thought. Yeah, the superintendent. That's like the big guy, right?
He's calling me the expert. Now he's got me announcing my titles. I mean, Peter, is it time to wrap up?
Yes, actually, it is time to wrap up. We're going to go over the numbers one more time. Okay, we have David Tattlebaum, Select Board Ward, not Ward, I think I'm doing New Bedford over here, Lot 1. So David Tattlebaum not opposed, so he's in for a 3-year term.
I'd still like to see how many votes David got, but we'll have to check on that after.
We'll check on that a little bit later, yeah. So it's Tattlebaum versus Blank, is that what it is? Yeah, so we'll have to check on that. All right, hey, we're only joking around with David over here. He's sitting right in front of us. Select Board Lot 3, it's Christopher O'Neill with 270 votes, John Souza with 138. So Christopher O'Neill is elected tonight. Congratulations to Chris. And, of course, all the best to John for putting a hat in the ring. Assessor, vote for 1, Curtis Nunes, 290, Albert Lay, 109. So Curtis Nunes elected tonight. For school committee, wait a minute, I have been reading the wrong sheet over here. Hang on one second. I have the numbers incorrect, but the actual winner correct.
Yeah.
So Christopher O'Neill, 2,094 votes. John Souza, 1,330. So it's a 61% to 39% victory for Chris O'Neill. Again, congratulations to him. And, of course, a tip of the cap to John, and all the best to him for putting his hat in the ring. Okay, assessor. Now we get the right numbers. 2,385 to Albert Lay, 771. 75% for Curtis Nunes, 25% of the vote for Albert Lay. School committee, Mary Beckwith. A very close race, but she wins tonight. 1,855 votes to Kyle Ross's 1,619. 53% for Mary Beckwith. Kyle Ross, 47% of the vote. And the trustee of Free Public Libraries, a 3-year term. The top 2 get in. Linda Garibaldi is in with 2,087 votes, 39% of the vote. Mary Cole is also in at 1,968 with 37% of the vote. And Maya Wolfson is eliminated tonight, but again, a tip of the cap to her for putting her hat in the ring. 24% of the vote, 1,282 votes tonight. Now, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Anchorman. Anchorman about a newscaster, You put something in front of him, he reads it off, right? Yeah. So I just pick it up, I start reading it off. It could have said anything.
You were going to go with
I was going to read it off. So that's the kind of the running newscaster joke, So you got to be careful what the teleprompter says in front of you.
You got to make sure you're getting the right paper.
Yeah, getting the right paper in front of you. So, hey, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I always enjoy it, and hopefully we'll be back again 1 year from now, right?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Mike Watson,
Good to see
thank
you,
you very
Paul.
much for being with us tonight here on our election night coverage. I'm Paul Santos. Thanks to Dartmouth Community Media, and we'll see you again next year. Good night.